Brothers and sisters. Today I want to talk about something that every single one of us faces, no matter where we come from or what path we're walking, struggling within ourselves. We've all been there, feeling like there's a storm brewing inside, unsure of how to quiet it, how to move forward. So let's break this down. 9 reasons, 9 struggles, 9 realities. But let me remind you, struggle is the proof that you haven't been defeated yet. You hear me? Let's get into it. Living for yourself and not for others' expectations is one of the most profound shifts a person can make. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly difficult in practice. From an early age, we're conditioned to seek approval, to meet the expectations of our parents, teachers, peers, and society. We're taught that success is defined by others, not by ourselves. We grow up striving for external validation, following a path laid out by others, not realizing that every step we take in their direction pulls us further away from our true selves. When you live by someone else's expectations, you begin to lose sight of what truly matters to you. You make decisions based on what others want, not what feels right in your heart. This disconnect from your own desires creates a deep internal struggle. It's like being in a constant battle between who you are and who you think you need to be. You start to doubt yourself, question your worth, and wonder if you'll ever feel whole. The reality is, you never will as long as you're living for someone else's approval. It's important to understand that expectations from others aren't inherently malicious. In most cases, they come from a place of love or concern. Your parents, for example, may push you in a certain direction because they believe it's what's best for you. Friends and peers might influence your decisions because they want you to fit in or succeed by societal standards. But even with the best intentions, these expectations can become chains that bind you. They keep you from exploring who you really are, what you're passionate about, and where your unique path might lead. One of the reasons we cling to others' expectations is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of disappointing those we care about. We believe that if we deviate from the path they've set for us, we'll lose their love, their approval, their respect. But what's often overlooked is that living a life for others is a surefire way to lose yourself. You become a version of yourself that's crafted to meet their standards, not one that reflects who you truly are. This gap between your authentic self and the image you project creates anxiety, dissatisfaction, and ultimately, unhappiness. Breaking free from others' expectations requires courage. It means stepping into the unknown, being willing to face criticism, judgment, and even failure. But more importantly, it means embracing your own voice, your own dreams, and your own desires. This process is not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. It involves a deep level of self-awareness and reflection. You have to ask yourself, what do I really want? What brings me joy? What kind of life do I want to create for myself? These are not questions that can be answered quickly, but they are the foundation of living authentically. One of the challenges in living for yourself is the constant noise from the outside world. Social media, cultural norms, and societal pressures all tell you what you should be doing. They tell you what success looks like, what happiness should feel like, and what milestones you should be hitting. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparison, constantly measuring yourself against others and feeling like you don't measure up. But the truth is, their journey is not your journey. Their goals are not your goals. You have to be willing to turn down the volume on the outside world and listen to the voice within. Living for yourself also means accepting responsibility for your own happiness. When you live by others' expectations, it's easy to blame them for your dissatisfaction. You can point to the pressure they put on you, the paths they pushed you down, and use that as a reason for your unhappiness. But when you choose to live authentically, you take full ownership of your choices. You realize that no one else is responsible for your life but you. This can be a liberating and terrifying realization. It means that you have the power to create the life you want, but it also means you can no longer hide behind others when things go wrong. Another challenge is that living for yourself can sometimes feel isolating. When you stop living by others' expectations, you might find that not everyone supports your choices. Friends may not understand, family may feel hurt or confused, and society may label you as rebellious or ungrateful. This can be painful, but it's important to remember that those who truly love and care for you will come to respect your decisions, even if they don't fully understand them. And those who can't support your growth may not be meant to walk the rest of your journey with you. Living authentically also means being willing to let go of perfection. When you're living for others' expectations, there's often a pressure to be perfect, to meet every goal, to never fail. But when you live for yourself, you learn that failure is not the end, it's part of the process. You start to see mistakes as lessons, not as signs of inadequacy. You give yourself the grace to grow, to evolve, and to change course when necessary. Perfection is an illusion, and the pursuit of it only keeps you stuck in a cycle of anxiety and disappointment. It's also important to recognize that living for yourself doesn't mean living selfishly. It's not about disregarding the feelings or needs of others. It's about aligning your life with your values, your purpose, and your passions, while still being kind and considerate of those around you. When you live authentically, you actually have more to give to others. You show up as a whole, fulfilled person, and that energy radiates outward. People are drawn to those who are living in their truth because it's rare, it's real, and it's inspiring. Living for yourself requires constant recalibration. As you grow and evolve, your desires, goals, and values may change. What's important is that you remain committed to checking in with yourself, to making sure that the life you're living is still in alignment with who you are becoming. Embracing failure as part of success is one of the most powerful lessons you can learn in life. Failure, for many, feels like the end of the road, a stopping point that signals you weren't good enough or didn't try hard enough. But this perspective on failure is not only limiting, it's completely false. Failure is not a wall, it's a stepping stone. It's part of the journey, not a detour. If you shift your mindset to view failure as an essential component of growth, you'll start to see that it isn't something to be feared, but something to be embraced. Failure teaches you lessons that success never will. When you succeed, it's easy to think that you've figured it all out, that you don't need to change or grow any further. But when you fail, that's when the real learning happens. It forces you to look at your approach, your mindset, and your strategies. It challenges you to see things from a different angle, to dig deeper, and to push harder. Failure exposes the gaps in your knowledge, your skills, and your resilience. Without those moments of failure, you would never know what needs improvement. One of the reasons people struggle to embrace failure is because of the stigma attached to it. Society often celebrates success while shaming failure, as though the two are completely separate. We glorify those who have made it to the top, but we rarely talk about the countless times they stumbled, fell, and had to start over. The truth is, every successful person has a trail of failures behind them. The difference between them and others is not that they avoided failure, but that they learned from it and kept going. They understood that failure is not a reflection of their worth, but a necessary part of their growth. Another important aspect of embracing failure is understanding that it doesn't define you. Too often, we internalize our failures and see them as a reflection of who we are rather than what we did. When you fail at something, it doesn't mean you are a failure as a person. It simply means that in that particular moment, with that particular approach, things didn't go as planned. It's crucial to separate your identity from your outcomes. You are not your failures. Your worth is not tied to your successes or your setbacks. You are a work in progress, and failure is just one part of that process. Failure also builds resilience. It strengthens you in ways that success never can. When you fail, you have two choices: give up or try again. Every time you choose to try again, you become stronger, more determined, and more capable. You learn to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. This resilience is what ultimately leads to success. It's not about never falling down, it's about getting back up every time you do. The more you fail, the more resilient you become. and the better equipped you are to handle whatever challenges come your way in the future. Another reason to embrace failure is that it pushes you out of your comfort zone. When everything is going smoothly, there's no reason to change, no reason to challenge yourself. But when you fail, you're forced to confront what's not working. And that often means stepping outside of your comfort zone. It requires you to try new approaches, take risks, and explore new ideas. Failure is a catalyst for innovation and creativity because it forces you to think differently. If you stay in your comfort zone, you'll never discover your full potential. But failure pushes you beyond those boundaries and into new realms of possibility. Failure also gives you a unique perspective on success. When you've experienced failure, success becomes that much sweeter. You appreciate it more because you know the struggle, the sacrifice, and the perseverance it took to get there. Success that comes without failure is often taken for granted. But when you've had to work through setbacks, doubts, and disappointments, you develop a deep sense of gratitude for every victory, no matter how small. Failure gives you the context to understand the value of success, and it humbles you in a way that success alone cannot. Failure builds character. It tests your patience, your perseverance, and your ability to stay focused on your goals. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to get frustrated, to want to give up. But pushing through those moments of failure is what builds character. It shows you what you're made of. It reveals your strengths and exposes your weaknesses. Failure forces you to confront yourself in a way that success never does. It strips away the ego and shows you the real work that needs to be done. Another way to think about failure is as a form of feedback. Every time you fail, it's life's way of telling you that something needs to change. Maybe your approach is off, maybe your timing isn't right, or maybe there's something more you need to learn. Failure is not a dead end, it's a signal. It's telling you that you're on the right path, but adjustments are needed. If you can view failure as feedback rather than a final judgment, you'll begin to see it as a tool for improvement rather than something to avoid. Failure also fosters humility. It reminds you that you don't have all the answers, that you're still learning, and that you still have room to grow. It's easy to get caught up in your own success, to believe that you figured it all out. But failure brings you back down to earth. It humbles you and keeps you grounded. It reminds you that success is not guaranteed and that no matter how much you achieve, there will always be more to learn. Focusing on gratitude instead of lack is a transformative shift in mindset that can radically change how you experience life. So many of us spend our days caught in a loop of dissatisfaction, constantly thinking about what we don't have, what we haven't achieved, or what we feel we're missing. This mentality, rooted in lack, creates a deep sense of emptiness and frustration. It's easy to feel that life is unfair or that you've been shortchanged in some way. But the truth is, this way of thinking keeps you trapped in a cycle of negativity, blinding you to the abundance already present in your life. Gratitude, on the other hand, opens your eyes to what's already there. When you practice gratitude, you begin to focus on the blessings that surround you, no matter how small they may seem. Instead of fixating on what you don't have, you start to appreciate what you do. This simple shift in focus can create an entirely new perspective on life. You realize that abundance isn't about having everything you want. It's about appreciating everything you already have. Gratitude turns what you have into enough, and it quiets the constant yearning for more. The problem with focusing on lack is that it breeds a sense of insufficiency. When you're always thinking about what's missing, you reinforce the idea that you're somehow incomplete or not good enough. This scarcity mindset spills into every aspect of life, your career, relationships, and personal growth. You start to believe that happiness is just out of reach, waiting for that next promotion, that new relationship, or that material possession. But when you live with a mindset of lack, no achievement or possession will ever feel like enough. There will always be something else you feel you're missing. Gratitude, however, shifts you into a mindset of sufficiency. It reminds you that you already have enough, that you are enough, and that life is already full of blessings if you take the time to see them. When you cultivate gratitude, you start to notice things you once overlooked: the beauty of a quiet morning, the warmth of a loved one's smile, the comfort of having a roof over your head. These small moments become sources of joy and contentment, and suddenly life feels richer. Gratitude shifts your attention from what's lacking to what's abundant. One of the reasons people struggle with gratitude is that we live in a society that constantly pushes us to want more. We're bombarded with messages that tell us we need the latest gadget, the newest car, the best job, or the perfect body to be happy. This creates a never-ending cycle of desire, where contentment always feels just beyond our grasp. But gratitude breaks this cycle. It frees you from the trap of always chasing after the next thing and allows you to find peace in the present moment. When you practice gratitude, you stop looking at life through the lens of what's missing and start seeing it for the fullness it already holds. Gratitude also has a profound impact on your mental and emotional well-being. Studies have shown that people who regularly practice gratitude experience lower levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. This is because gratitude rewires your brain to focus on the positive aspects of life rather than the negative. When you're constantly thinking about what you lack, it creates a sense of inadequacy and frustration. But when you shift your focus to gratitude, you start to feel more content, more hopeful, and more at peace. Gratitude cultivates a sense of inner calm because it reminds you that, despite life's challenges, there is always something to be thankful for. Another powerful aspect of gratitude is that it helps you develop resilience. Life is full of setbacks, disappointments, and challenges, but gratitude gives you the strength to navigate these difficult times. When you focus on what you have, rather than what you've lost or what's gone wrong, you build a foundation of inner strength. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring life's hardships, it means acknowledging them while also recognizing the good that still exists. This perspective allows you to move through tough times with greater ease because you're not defined by what's missing, you're empowered by what's still present. Gratitude also improves your relationships. When you approach others with a sense of gratitude, you start to appreciate them for who they are, rather than focusing on what they may not provide. In romantic relationships, friendships, and family dynamics, gratitude fosters deeper connections because it encourages you to see the value in others, not just their shortcomings. It shifts your focus from criticism to appreciation, and that simple change can transform how you interact with the people in your life. When you show gratitude for the love, support, and companionship you receive, your relationships become more fulfilling and harmonious. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean you ignore your goals or stop striving for improvement. It doesn't mean you settle for less or stop dreaming. Rather, gratitude allows you to pursue your ambitions from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. When you focus on lack, your motivation is driven by a sense of inadequacy or fear of failure. But when you focus on gratitude, your drive comes from a place of joy and appreciation for what you already have. This mindset fuels your success because you're not chasing after achievements to fill a void, you're building on the abundance that already exists. Gratitude is also a form of mindfulness. It grounds you in the present moment and helps you appreciate the here and now. When you're constantly thinking about what's missing, your mind is always in the future, always waiting for something else to bring you happiness. But when you practice gratitude, you bring your awareness back to the present. You start to notice the small, everyday moments that are often overlooked in the hustle of life. This mindfulness enriches your experience and allows you to find joy in the simple things that, when noticed, bring a profound sense of contentment. Gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. It's easy to believe that there's not enough to go around, not enough success, love, or happiness. But this is a false narrative that creates competition, jealousy, and bitterness. Gratitude, however, reminds you that life is abundant. There is enough for everyone, and what's meant for you will never pass you by. When you focus on what you have, rather than what you think you're lacking, you open yourself up to even more abundance. You start to see opportunities where others see obstacles, and you attract more positivity into your life because you're radiating it from within. Facing your truth is one of the most challenging yet liberating things you can do. It means confronting who you really are at your core, the good, the bad, and everything in between. For many, this is a frightening prospect because it requires a deep level of self-honesty. It means stripping away the layers of denial, excuses, and justifications we use to avoid dealing with uncomfortable realities about ourselves. But until you're willing to face your truth, you can never truly grow. Growth comes from understanding where you are, what you need to change, and who you need to become. One of the reasons people avoid facing their truth is fear. Fear of what they might find if they look too closely at themselves. Maybe it's the fear of failure, the fear of not living up to their own potential, or the fear of acknowledging mistakes they've made. But running from the truth only deepens the inner conflict. When you avoid your truth, you live in a constant state of tension between the person you are and the person you pretend to be. This tension manifests as anxiety, stress, and dissatisfaction because deep down, you know you're not being authentic with yourself. Facing your truth also requires accepting responsibility for your life. It's easy to blame external circumstances, other people, or bad luck for the things that haven't gone your way. But when you face your truth, you're forced to acknowledge the role you've played in your own struggles. Maybe it's a pattern of self-sabotage, fear of commitment, or reluctance to step out of your comfort zone. Whatever it is, facing your truth means owning up to your choices and actions and understanding how they've shaped your life. This level of accountability can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary for real growth. Another challenge in facing your truth is letting go of the illusions you've created. We often build stories around ourselves that help us cope with disappointment, regret, or shame. These stories might include blaming others for our problems or convincing ourselves that we're victims of circumstance. While these narratives may provide temporary comfort, they ultimately prevent us from making real progress. Facing your truth requires dismantling these illusions and seeing things for what they really are. It's about being brutally honest with yourself, even if the truth is hard to swallow. Facing your truth also means acknowledging your limitations. As much as we want to believe we can do everything, be everything, or fix everything, the reality is that we all have limitations. Whether it's in our abilities, time, or emotional capacity, there are limits to what we can handle. Accepting these limitations isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. When you face your truth, you learn to work within your limitations and make the most of what you have, rather than constantly striving for an impossible ideal or burning out in the process. An essential part of facing your truth is confronting your fears. Fear has a way of controlling us without us even realizing it. It dictates our choices, shapes our behaviors, and limits our potential. When you face your truth, you must identify the fears that have been holding you back. Maybe it's the fear of failure, rejection, or not being good enough. Whatever those fears are, facing them head-on is the only way to overcome them. You begin to realize that most of your fears are based on imagined scenarios or past experiences that no longer serve you. Once you face them, they start to lose their power over you. In facing your truth, you also have to acknowledge your emotional baggage. We all carry wounds from the past, old traumas, unresolved conflicts, or lingering regrets that shape how we see ourselves in the world. These emotional scars often influence our behavior, sometimes in ways we're not fully aware of. Facing your truth means bringing these hidden emotions to the surface, allowing yourself to feel them, and then letting them go. This process is painful, but it's also cleansing. You can't move forward in life if you're still chained to the emotional weight of the past. Another important aspect of facing your truth is coming to terms with your desires and needs. Many people spend their lives suppressing what they really want because they're afraid it's too much, too selfish, or too unrealistic. But when you face your truth, you must acknowledge your deepest desires and honor them. It's not about indulging in every whim, but about recognizing what truly matters to you, what brings you joy, fulfillment, and a sense of purpose. Denying these desires only leads to resentment and frustration. Facing them, however, allows you to pursue a life that's aligned with your true self. Facing your truth also involves confronting the roles you've adopted in your life. Many of us take on roles that don't necessarily reflect who we are but serve to meet other people's expectations. Whether it's the role of the caregiver, the achiever, the peacemaker, or the rebel, these roles often shape our identity in ways that limit our true potential. Facing your truth means asking yourself whether the roles you've taken on are really yours or if they were imposed by others. It's about shedding those identities that no longer serve you and embracing the person you're meant to be. Avoiding the comparison trap is one of the most important yet difficult lessons to learn in today's world. From a young age, we're conditioned to measure ourselves against others, whether it's through academic performance, physical appearance, career achievements, or personal relationships. Social media has only intensified this habit, making it easy to fall into the dangerous pattern of constantly comparing our lives to the curated highlights of others. But comparison is a thief of joy. It robs you of the ability to appreciate your own journey, your own progress, and your own unique path. One of the main reasons comparing yourself to others is so harmful is because it places your focus outside of yourself. When you're constantly looking at what someone else has or what they've achieved, you lose sight of your own growth and accomplishments. You begin to live by someone else's standards rather than your own. This not only breeds dissatisfaction, but also creates unnecessary pressure. You feel the need to keep up, to prove something, to fit into a mold that might not even align with who you really are. In the process, you neglect the most important relationship of all, the one you have with yourself. Comparison also leads to feelings of inadequacy. No matter how successful you are or how much you've accomplished, there will always be someone who has more or seems to be doing better. If you measure your worth by someone else's achievements, you'll never feel like you're enough. You'll constantly be chasing after something that's always just out of reach. This creates a cycle of low self-esteem, anxiety, and frustration because you're basing your happiness and sense of fulfillment on external factors that you can't control. But when you focus on your own journey, you start to see that you are enough just as you are. Another reason to avoid comparing yourself to others is that you're not seeing the full picture. When you compare yourself to someone else's success, you're often only looking at the end result, not the struggles and failures they went through to get there. It's easy to look at someone's highlight reel and assume they have it all figured out. But behind every success story is a lot of hard work, sacrifice, and often a fair share of setbacks. When you focus on your own path, you gain a deeper appreciation for the process and start to see that everyone's journey is unique with its own challenges and triumphs. Comparison is especially destructive because it takes away from your own unique gifts. Each of us has our own strengths, talents, and purpose. But when you're busy looking at someone else's life, you fail to nurture your own. You might even start to downplay your own abilities, believing that they're not as valuable or important as what someone else has to offer. But the truth is, no one else in the world has your exact combination of experiences, perspectives, and skills. When you focus on cultivating your own talents and passions, rather than comparing yourself to others, you unlock your true potential and contribute something only you can give. Another important point to consider is that comparison is rooted in insecurity. When you compare yourself to others, it's often because you feel uncertain about your own worth or path. You seek external validation by measuring yourself against someone else's achievements. But the problem with this is that it gives away your power. You let someone else's life define your success, happiness, or sense of fulfillment. True confidence comes from within. It comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you're capable of, regardless of what anyone else is doing. Focusing on your own path also allows you to celebrate others' successes without feeling threatened or diminished. When you're constantly comparing yourself, someone else's achievements can feel like a reminder of what you haven't done or what you're lacking. But when you're secure in your own journey, you can genuinely be happy for others without feeling like their success takes away from your own. You start to see that there's enough success, happiness, and fulfillment to go around. Someone else's win doesn't mean your loss. There's room for everyone to thrive in their own unique way. Comparison also distorts your perception of time. Everyone's journey unfolds at its own pace, and just because someone achieves something earlier or faster doesn't mean you're behind. We all have different timelines, and successes isn't a race. Some people hit their stride early in life while others take more time to find their path. What matters most is that you stay true to yourself and trust your own process. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you free yourself from the artificial deadlines society imposes, and you give yourself the space to grow at your own pace. Another key point is that comparison drains your energy. It takes a lot of mental and emotional energy to constantly measure yourself against others. This energy could be better spent focusing on your own growth, goals, and happiness. When you stop comparing yourself, you reclaim that energy and use it to invest in yourself. You become more productive, more creative, and more fulfilled because you're no longer distracted by what everyone else is doing. Instead, you're focused on becoming the best version of yourself on your own terms. Avoiding comparison also teaches you to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. When you're always comparing yourself, you're focused on outcomes, on who has achieved more, who's more successful, who has more of what you want. But life is about more than just the end results. It's about the experiences, the lessons, and the growth that happens along the way. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you learn to enjoy the process, to appreciate the small victories, and to find fulfillment in the everyday moments that make life meaningful. When you avoid comparing yourself to others, you become more authentic. You stop trying to fit into a mold or live up to someone else's standards, and instead you start living in alignment with your own values and desires. Authenticity is where true happiness lies, because it allows you to live a life that's true to who you are, rather than a life that's based on what others are doing. When you embrace your own path and stop worrying about how it stacks up against someone else's, you find a sense of peace and fulfillment that comparison could never offer. Rediscovering your purpose is a journey that requires deep introspection and a willingness to break away from old patterns of thinking. Life has a way of making us lose sight of what truly matters. As we get caught up in responsibilities, routines, and the expectations of others, our sense of purpose can become blurred. What once felt clear and meaningful may begin to feel distant, even irrelevant. Rediscovering your purpose means reconnecting with what drives you at your core, what fills your life with meaning, and what gives you a sense of fulfillment beyond the surface-level distractions. The first step in rediscovering your purpose is to recognize that it's not something fixed. Many people believe that their purpose is something they either have or don't have, like a talent or a skill set. But purpose evolves over time. What drove you 5 or 10 years ago may not be the same thing that fuels your passion today. As you grow, your purpose shifts with you. This is why it's essential to periodically reassess where you are in life and how aligned you feel with your deeper motivations. Rediscovering your purpose is about reconnecting with yourself in the present moment, without clinging to outdated versions of what you thought your life should be. Often we lose sight of our purpose because we become too focused on external validation. Society teaches us to measure success by how much we achieve, how much we earn, or how we're perceived by others. But when you live your life solely based on external metrics, you can easily lose touch with what's meaningful to you on a personal level. Rediscovering your purpose means stepping back from these external pressures and asking yourself what truly brings you joy and fulfillment. It's about finding what resonates with your heart, not just what looks good on paper or satisfies the expectations of those around you. One of the reasons people struggle to rediscover their purpose is because they feel overwhelmed by the idea that it has to be grand or world-changing. But purpose doesn't have to be about achieving something massive or impacting millions of people. Your purpose can be found in the small, everyday moments that make life meaningful. It might be in nurturing your relationships, contributing to your community, or pursuing a hobby that fills you with joy. Rediscovering your purpose is about recognizing that it's not the size of the impact that matters, but the depth of meaning you derive from it. Another important aspect of rediscovering your purpose is letting go of past failures or missed opportunities. Many people hold themselves back because they're haunted by what they perceive as mistakes or wrong turns. They feel like they've drifted too far off course to ever get back on track. But rediscovering your purpose isn't about erasing the past, it's about learning from it. Your experiences, no matter how challenging or painful, have shaped who you are today. Rather than seeing them as setbacks, view them as stepping stones that have brought you closer to the person you're meant to be. Purpose is often born out of adversity, and rediscovering it requires embracing all parts of your journey. To rediscover your purpose, it's also essential to make space for self-reflection. In our fast-paced, constantly connected world, it can be difficult to find the quiet moments needed for introspection. We're bombarded with distractions, from social media to work obligations, that make it easy to lose touch with ourselves. But rediscovering your purpose requires time to reflect on what you truly want out of life, what makes you feel alive, and what aligns with your values. This may involve journaling, meditating, or simply spending time alone to reconnect with your inner voice. Without this space for reflection, it's hard to hear the call of your purpose amidst the noise. Purpose is also deeply connected to service, how you contribute to the world around you. Often our sense of purpose is reignited when we focus on something larger than ourselves. This doesn't mean you have to quit your job and dedicate your life to charity, but it does mean finding ways to give back in a way that feels meaningful to you. When you shift your focus from personal gain to how you can make a positive impact, even in small ways, you begin to see your role in the larger tapestry of life. Rediscovering your purpose can be as simple as realizing that your actions, no matter how small, matter and can create ripples of change. Rediscovering your purpose also involves tapping into your passions. Passion is the fuel that keeps purpose alive. When you engage in activities that light you up, you feel more connected to your purpose because you're in alignment with what brings you joy. Many people lose sight of their passions as they get caught up in the responsibilities of adulthood, but rediscovering them can breathe new life into your sense of purpose. Ask yourself what activities or pursuits make you lose track of time, what energizes you, and what you would do even if no one else noticed. These are clues to rediscovering what truly drives you. An often overlooked but crucial part of rediscovering your purpose is listening to your intuition. We all have an inner compass that guides us, but it's easy to ignore it in favor of logic, practicality, or societal expectations. However, your intuition is often your greatest ally in rediscovering your purpose. It's that quiet voice inside that nudges you toward what feels right, even when it doesn't make sense to others or align with conventional paths. Rediscovering your purpose means learning to trust your gut, to follow where it leads, and to have faith in the process, even when the way forward isn't entirely clear.